Hi guys. All right. Um, Today we're going to talk a little bit about flipping, my fixing and flipping, which I do every summer. And you guys, most of you guys know that. Um, I also kind of tried to be, how to. This is how you do that. I'll still do some of that, but only on certain things. I'm not going to do every single carburetor, you know what I mean. I don't want to get repetitive too much. Um, so a lot of people ask me why I don't go higher end, like zero turns or, you know, simplicities or, whatever, or even the older garden tractors that that people like. Well, the reason I deal with Craftsman's, MTDs, these Husqvarnas, John Deere's like that one, um, I'm trying to appeal to the masses. I don't want to pigeonhole myself. Like if you're dealing with old garden tractors, you're selling to somebody who's looking for that. You know what I mean? And even with the simplicities, I had 3 of them last year, and I did good on them. But the people that bought them were looking for simplicities specifically. They didn't want Craftsman's. They didn't want Husqvarnas. They didn't. That's what they were looking for, is simplicities. And zero turns is another one. You're kind of pigeonholing yourself. And number 2 on the zero turns is I don't really care for them. That's just me. I know they're pretty popular. People love them, and that's great. I've had a couple I worked on before. Some of them, at least the ones I worked on, they're hard to work on. They're very part specific, and it's just not it's not a good fit for what I do. I'm trying to appeal to the masses, or the average Joe out there that's looking for a riding lawnmower to cut his grass. He doesn't want to push anymore or whatever. He's stepping up his game a little bit, but he doesn't want to spend too much money. And let me tell you, that way they move really fast that way. Get them done, get them sold. Perfect. That's the way I like it. And again, the higher dollar stuff takes longer to sell. You're, again, kind of pigeonholing yourself into the person that wants to spend a lot of money on something. Like this here one is probably going to be a pretty expensive model. And I'll get into that. So that's why sometimes you'll see me fix up old Craftsman's, or, stuff like that, or MTDs. The Cub Cadets basically are MTDs now. So they are what they are. But the thing is with so many of them being the same, I mean, that John Deere and this one aren't that far apart. They're pretty much the same unit, just different badge, different hood designs, stuff like that. But they're the same. They use basically the same type engines. The hydros, depending on what you're working on, most of them are the same. So if you're doing this, you want to make sure you have parts available. Like I buy lots of parts tractors too, or they're given to me. And I like it when they're given to me because then I'm out nothing. But so you buy parts tractors that may have an engine that don't run but is not blown up. A lot of times that's what I'll do. Or it was working good, but the engine blew, so that means your hydro is good. typically. It's still a gamble. And that's pretty much what this is I'm gambling. I'm gambling on myself that I know enough. You have to school yourself on these things to know what to look for and know that you may have the part or can get the part cheaply, or a lot of times guys will just order stuff off the internet, and that's fine. I don't do that. I go to brick and mortar stores. I deal with that way. Sometimes I pay a little bit more money, but I get it that day. So I'm a bad waiter. And I don't mean the guy that comes to your table when you're out to eat and gives you your supper. I'm talking about, I don't like to wait. So like if I'm going to go somewhere, I get the part right away, come back, boom, we're all good to go. So let's get into these two Husqvarnas. Okay, I bought these a couple weeks ago at my favorite dealership. You guys seen me go there last year and get my Cub Cadets. And these two have been sitting there all winter long. And they were still there a couple weeks ago, so I decided to ask the guy I deal with there what he's looking to get out of them. So he gave me a screaming deal on both of them. Both of them together were I spent $650 for both. Not a piece, but for both. Now you could split that up and say I paid $325 a piece. I don't want to do that because this one, which is a YTH 22V42, it's still in pretty decent shape. It's a 2015. Got the 22 horsepower intake. It's dirty, it's grimy, and it needs some TLC. And a seat. I think I have a seat, but it's not great, but it's a lot better than this duct tape disaster that you see before you. Now, this one has 825 hours on it. It runs, drives, and mows. So that's the good part, but it does need some TLC. In its current condition, I probably wouldn't pay $200 or $325 for it. I'm thinking closer to $200. So therefore, for that one, I would say I spent $450 on that, which is fine. It's all kind of calculations. I wasn't going to do money amounts with this, but just to keep things simple and so people understand, I think that's what I'm going to do. Now this one, you have to, when you're looking at these, you got to look for your proverbial oil leaks like this one. It's a mess. However, I suspect it's coming from the oil drain. It's got that stupid, push in, pull out deal, and I'm pretty sure that's what's leaking on here. I don't really see anything else unless, it could also be the O-ring on the dipstick tube. This side is, other than around the oil filter, it's really not bad. It's possibly going to need a valve cover gasket. Pretty common on these intakes. The date code on the engine is a 2015. You guys probably can't see it. You just have to take my word for it. It's 2015. 2015. But he sure mowed the heck out of it with it. He put a lot of hours on it in that amount of time. It's still, the deck is in pretty good shape. The paint is somewhat dulled up here and scratched up. Of course, it needs a bath. This needs to be buffed out. The front tire on the other side has been replaced. Somehow he thought this one was just dandy. It was flat when I picked it up. And so it's got a real slow leak to it. And it hasn't lost air since I put air in it. But got to change that out to a better tire. That bogey wheel's a little bent like this. So that'll have to be straightened out. And so I'm going to say I paid $200 for this one. And we'll get into this one. Will be its own other video when I get to it. Let's move on to the LGT, which stands for, well, never mind. Lawn and Garden Tractor, probably. 2654. Don't want to offend anybody. So it's got the, and I pressure washed this thing already, but really it didn't look much different than this. It's really clean. Now the date code on this 26 horse Intech says 07, and it looks pretty close to that 2015, so I don't, it's possible maybe somebody put another engine in it. I don't know why, but he would have. It's got really low hours on it. I'll show you that in a minute. If somebody, you guys know how to run numbers, I don't mess with any of that. Years really don't matter to me, but there's the numbers. If any of you guys run numbers and tell me what year this might be, but it sure looks newer than a 2007. I mean, the deck is immaculate. The thing is in amazing shape, but it's only got 258 hours on it. So it's very low hour. The only issue with it really is the seat. The seat's a little tore up. They just don't make seats worth a dang anymore. I mean, you can get covers for them. You can order covers and stuff like that, which is probably the way to go. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to sell it with that seat on it. But this one too also runs, drives, and mows. All good. Basically what this one is a maintenance job. Air filter, oil change, blades, sharpen the blades. I'm going to get into the blades in a second. And then a cleaning up, and that's pretty much what I did. I already pressure washed it yesterday, and anything looks damn near like it's only a year old. I mean, it's incredible. It's got the big tires on both the back and the front. I did a video on this yesterday, but anyway, I'm redoing it today. So I cleaned out the headlights. I'm going to show you how I did that on the other Husqvarna when I get to it. Hang on a second, let me grab something. Alright, so these are the orange ones are the blades that came off it. And when I was underneath it, I thought, wow, these are nice blades on there. They're still orange, and they need a good sharpening, but I thought, good, I don't have to get blades for it. And then I took them off, and you can see where they're starting to, I mean, these are super high lift blades on here, and that's kind of what happens with these. If you can tell, they start wearing thin right here at the crease, and they get real thin here. That's bad. Really what these are now is his spares in case the guy should bend a blade or something. You got one to put on there. I've seen people run these things so long that sometimes the piece of it will break off, and a lot of times they just wear down to nothing, and that's that. But sometimes these pieces, when they get thin and start getting a line in there, they will snap off. And then so I had to go out today and get a new set of blades. These are not the super high lift like these are, but nevertheless they're brand new. So I'm going to go over what I have in this mower before I end the video. There's a couple things I want to go over with this thing, and which means I want to put you in the stand, so hang on. Okay guys, one thing I want to go over on these types of air filters, I can't stand these. I think they're a piss poor design. Sorry, I think they're just a poor design altogether. I don't like the way they seal. Well, I better not set it on the battery. So this one, the filter wasn't horrible. I've seen a lot worse. It's probably a factory filter because of the low hours, I'm guessing. So why did that go in there? Pretty sure it went like that. Here's your carb inlet is right here. Now there's air coming in underneath here, and it's supposed to go, you know, through your filter. Oops. Through your filter and down in through here. Well, and how it gets through there, let's see, I'll come over to you. Is it goes through here and then down the gullet or the throat. But this seal here, which seals this up, in theory it sounds good, I guess. It's not. And if any of this is off in any way, and if it's old, if these get old, like this one's not so bad, it still feels pretty good, but it is indented where it was sealed down. But I'm going to come over to you again. If you can see on here, you can see where it was pushed down pretty good through here. The corners are, you can't see anything happening there, or this strip here, like it wasn't even pushed down there. I'm sure it was, but it lets in, especially if you have a dirty air filter. These really should be replaced often. I can't stress that enough. Because if they get dirty, then they're just sucking in dirt. And what'll happen, see that little bit of dirt on my hands, on my fingertips? That's all because of this poor design. And I cannot stand these things. But I think now that we have a new one on there, we're all good. And now the old ones, the older styles, which I've had, they only had 2 of these thumb screws. holding it down, which was really bad then. At least now on these the newer ones, they have 4, which is quite an improvement. But let me tell you something. You better have them tight, especially these N2. Mainly these N2. It's just very important for the sealing up of the filter. All right, so there we go. And this one it's deteriorating, so it definitely had to be changed. Plus this, maybe you guys couldn't tell. See, like I said, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse than this, and that's one of the bigger killers of these Intex with these filters, is people do not check these things. And most of the time people don't, no matter what kind of filter they have. They might check it the first, I don't know, year or two when they have the machine, and then they kind of slack off. It's fine, it's fine. Man, you let these ones go, you're asking for trouble. You guys don't need to see the oil change. I'll do that when I'm done filming. I want to show you guys a couple more things. Okay, these newer tractors have a lot of plastic on them, and a lot of times they'll fade. This one I've already fixed. Looks pretty nice and black, right? This one wasn't faded as much as the other one was, but it's still faded somewhat. Now, a commenter long time ago told me about this trick, and he might have said to use a heat gun. I can't remember. I tried my heat gun, and it's just too hard to control, I guess. I get a better reaction. Just like you're painting it. I don't know. Hopefully you guys can see what's going on here. It just turns it nice and black again. Makes it look like brand new. Now, a propane little torch like this would probably work better. This MAP one is probably a little too much heat for it, but I'll tell you what, it really makes things look nice when the plastic isn't all faded out. Oh, they have that crap as seen on TV garbage, you know, that, yeah, just wipe this on your plastic. Make it look like brand. Guess what? Stuff don't work. My mouth is really slippy today. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so you guys get that. Hopefully you could tell the difference. I should have done this one last night and done this one for you, because this one was really faded bad. Also, same subject as these. Make sure you get those off. Even on your own personal mowers, they need to be taken off regularly. Of course, you can only screw and unscrew them so many times. That's why I leave the ones on my Cub Cadets. I just leave them off. I just take the guards up. Now, I'm not recommending you do that, because they're there for a reason. But I'm not the most safety conscious guy, as you guys have found out. So I don't care personally. But you have to keep this area clean. Very important to do that. Every time I'm done mowing, because I don't have covers on, I take the leaf blower and I blow the deck totally clean. I don't like grass sticking on here. In fact, there was a lot of grass on their both sides. And the paint will start peeling up and things will start rusting quicker. Then, especially like under there where all the idlers are and stuff like that, you're going to start getting them to bind up and they'll heat up. Bearings will go bad. You don't want that. Same thing with these. They need airflow. That's why there's holes here. They need airflow to keep them cool or you're going to burn your bearings up. Very important. It doesn't even hurt to check them for a slop, once in a while. Even putting your blade on underneath, you can grab your blade and move it around. Make sure there's no slop in your bearings. Make sure they're still going bad, or still good, not going bad. These have a grease zerk on the tops of all three. I will be greasing them. However, we all know the dirty secret on that is you're just putting grease into a cavity. Now you could go in there and take the bearings out, take the seal off the one end, and then just pack it full of grease so you get grease in there. What do you do? It is what it is, right? Now you can see this plastic is a little faded. I'll show, maybe you can see better on that one. This side must have really seen the light or something. Of course, when you get close to paint, you don't want to burn the paint off either. Guys, hopefully you can see this. It's just like you're painting. It's really no different. Except it's dry in seconds. And you're done. Make it look like brand new. That's why I like them nice and clean. I like them to look as new as I can get them to look. The wind's kind of blowing in here, blowing my flame. People like it when they're nice and clean. I had one guy show up last year and he says, you're not so much checking out the machine as you are the person that's selling it. And you know what? It makes a lot of sense. The wind coming in here is blowing my flame around. I mean, you might get some lines, but overall, it looks pretty good. Yeah, that just looks like it showed up on film pretty good. So yeah, that's one trick I've learned over the years. That's, this YouTube thing is cool, man. I mean, people give you comments, great comments that stick with you, and I really like it. Of course, with that, you get comments that aren't so great, but it is what it is. Also, I've already done it. The belts are a very important thing on this, and that helps too when you it's totally kicked away. That helps too to check the belt out when you take these covers off. I mean, look how clean this is. Isn't that something? This whole deck is just immaculate. I just couldn't believe it. So anyway, yeah, your belts, and this one looks brand new. I mean, got to check your idler pulleys, which I've done already. You know, like this one. Move it around, you know. And there's a couple more under there that I've already checked. And then your drive belt is very important too, very important. Sometimes that can make the difference whether it's driving or not driving, you know, or it's slow or it doesn't climb hills. Sometimes all it needs is that belt change. People really let that thing go. So I can't physically show you because it's hard to get the camera under there to show you what I'm talking about. But when you're doing that, you want your brake on, so your clutch is in, and so your drive belt is loose. There's pulleys. There's so much stuff under here. But there's pulleys under here, and they're plastic. And you have to spin them around with your hand, your fingers. Move them around just like you did these. And check them for wear, because what'll happen is, again, grass buildup, or they just go bad. Those plastic pulleys for the drive, they'll bind up, and then that belt is still going. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to wear a big slot into that pulley, and then you'll have to get new ones. But they don't cost much, but still, it's just a fact of me. Then you had to drop the deck and do all this stuff, which for me is a piece of cake, but a lot of other people don't like to do that. That's why that's a major thing to check. Okay, and maybe on one of these that I have to drop the deck on, I'll probably go over that more in another video, probably on the other Husqvarna, because I think I'm going to take that deck off. I'm not positive yet, but I will do a separate video on that, just not on this dog right here. I just want to tell you that this one checks out perfect. The low hours help with that. I just wish it had a better seat on it. So I'm going to go over a couple things with you. Money wise, again, I wasn't going to go the money route. I was going to try to figure it out another way, but I'm just going to keep it simple and just tell you the money amounts. And two, I'm probably going to come back and buff this out a little bit too. Like I said, I want everything gleaming when I sell them, as much as I can get them to gleam. The plastic too on the hood, you can do that trick too, and I kind of did it to the front already. Like I said, you get close to paint, you got to be real careful. Hang on a sec. So with this guy, I know my writing is just terrible. I figure the cost of this one is $450 when I got it. The parts all together, blades, both filters, oil is really all I needed for this. So I have $75 in parts. All together is $525. I'm gonna ask $1,200. That's might kind of be shooting for the moon if it is a 2007, but it's still in great shape. Plus, it got the bumper. Anyway, so question mark as far as get, because I'll come back you know, another video I'm doing on something else, and I'll tell you what I got for it. Chances are I'm not going to get 1,200, but if I get 1,000, that'll be great. But I'll go over that later. So I'm going to change the oil on this bad boy. Oil filter. Put the covers back on. And it's probably going to go up for sale here pretty soon. Guess what? I even bought it with a full tank of gas in it. It's probably last year's gas, but it runs just fine on it. In fact, why don't we fire this baby up? About half throttle. Bunch of water came off the pulley because I pressure washed it yesterday. One more thing I want to go over, I guess. Forgot about. Good runner. Let me see if I can turn the wheel. I got to grease the axle and the wheels. It's part of the maintenance on here. Grease zerk right here. Then there's a grease zerk usually on the rim on most of these machines. These don't always work. A lot of times they'll get plugged, and if that's the case, then I just take the whole, put it up in the air, and I take the rim off and just grease it manually. That's another very important. A lot of people overlook that, and they do a lot of damage to that spindle. So that's another very important maintenance item. Other than that, guys, I think we're done on this one. We'll have more coming up on other videos. So and then I'll let you know what I got for this bad boy. All right. And I'm not done yet, I guess. I want to say what I do could be totally different than what you do. This is what works for me. This is how I do it. This is what your area, you might be able to ask a totally different number. You may not even get what I asked for. Who knows? It all depends on your area. And what I do, you know, like I said, that's up to you. You do you, you know. And this is just how old Dave does it. All right, guys? Okay. Now we'll talk to you later. Thanks for joining me. Bye.